This is Apple's 12-inch MacBook, a laptop that cost over $1,300 US at launch that you can get right now for less than $500. Welcome to Tech Rewind, where we take a look back at some older devices to see if they're still worth your hard-earned cash. Now, today's episode is all about the 12-inch MacBook, one of Apple's lightest and most compact laptops ever made. This laptop had a few small issues at launch, but now that you can grab one for a great price, trust me, it's definitely worth taking a second look. It's time for Tech Rewind. The 12-inch MacBook was announced on March 9th, 2015 as a successor to the polycarbonate MacBooks that were discontinued back in 2011. I still have a matte black laptop from 2008 kicking around, and when sitting side by side with the newer 12-inch MacBooks, the old MacBook looks like it ate 3 of the newer ones for breakfast. The 12-inch MacBook really is tiny. It's 11 inches wide, 7.7 inches deep, and only half an inch at height at the back, which is actually its thickest point. If you follow that side profile down to the front, it tapers down to a minuscule 0.14 inches in height, which is absolutely ridiculous for a laptop. I'm not sure who asked for a laptop this thin, but there you go. I'll say this, its portability is definitely one of its greatest strengths. I often find myself bringing it just all over the house with me when I want to type up a quick email or write a script for one of my upcoming videos. I'll be honest though, when I first started using this laptop, I was not fond of the typing experience. The keyboard in this laptop uses Apple's butterfly switch mechanism, meaning the keys have a very shallow travel depth. We're talking like less than a millimeter. It just doesn't feel great to type on. Now, I've gotten used to it, but I'm still not fond of it. Not to mention they're notorious for being a little bit unreliable. On the plus side, the layout and size of the keys is natural and it doesn't feel cramped at all, even though this laptop is super small. And that's thanks to the fact that the keys stretch all the way out to the very edges of the laptop. The trackpad is a decent size too, and it's as good as you'd expect from an Apple laptop trackpad. Nice solid force feedback and great gesture support. The speakers are better than I was expecting too. For a 12-inch MacBook, they get decently loud, although they do lack the bass that you'll find in larger MacBooks like the 14-inch MacBook Pro that I have. What I was not impressed with is the port selection on this laptop. For most people, this is one of the biggest downsides of the 12-inch MacBook. It has one USB-C port for charging on the left-hand side and one 3.5mm headphone jack on the right. That's it. If you want to charge the laptop and plug in a USB drive at the same time, you'll need a USB-C hub. And that kind of sucks. All right, let's talk about that display. This is a 12-inch 16x10 2304 by 1440 IPS display, and while it doesn't quite measure up to the new mini LED displays of the newer and much more expensive MacBook Pros, it's a solid screen overall. I mean, sure, it's got some pretty sizable bezels that do bother me a little if I'm honest, but I can't complain about the quality of the display. Given that it is a 1440p panel that's crammed into this 12-inch size, everything is perfectly sharp, and as is typical of most MacBooks, the color is pretty darn great too. This thing would be perfect to take with you on a plane to watch a movie or TV show or something. Here's something that surprised me. Given the fact that this laptop does have these, huge bezels around the display, I figured there'd be plenty of room to put a nice big webcam in here. It's a MacBook. FaceTime is a fairly important feature for most Apple users. But nope, you're stuck with a crappy 480p webcam on here that belongs in the exact same place that the Magic Mouse does, the trash. Next, I want to get into the internals of this tiny 12-inch MacBook, the overall performance and battery life, the stuff that really matters. But first, I need to take a quick minute to thank the sponsor of this video, Lark. Old water infrastructure and a mistrust of tap water has started to shift people to buy single-use water bottles. Now, not only is that bad for the environment, it's also bad for your wallet. That's where these come in. Lark's PureViz and filtered bottles. The PureViz bottles are very cool. They have a UVC light built into the underside of the cap that will purify your water in 60 seconds. It kills 99% of bacteria with the push of a button on the top. They also have an adventure mode for outdoor use with a longer 3-minute cleaning cycle, making it 10,000 times more hygienic than regular reusable bottles. There's 2 versions of the PureViz. The bottle movement PureViz, which is much lighter and easier easier to carry around while being active. And then there's this one, the regular PureViz version, which is double walled and insulated to keep your drinks warm for 12 hours or cold for 24 hours. The Lark bottle filtered, on the other hand, has an easy to drink, low pressure straw that removes lead, heavy metals, chlorine, and other harmful stuff so that your water will not only taste great, but it'll be safe too. Pick up your Lark bottle today by clicking on the link in the video description below. Inside this tiny 12-inch laptop frame sits a 5417 mAh battery. Now that's not enormous, but given that MacBooks are fairly power efficient most of the time, this laptop does have decent battery life overall. My model has around 150 battery cycles, and I'm still getting around 7-ish to 8 hours of screen on time, as long as I'm not taxing the CPU too hard. The 12-inch MacBook comes with a somewhat small 30-watt charging brick and a USB-C to USB-C cable for charging the laptop, but given that the battery isn't all that big, it doesn't take very long to charge the laptop at all from dead. Now I haven't timed it, but I'd estimate that it takes just over an hour and a half or so. Then there's performance. So the 12-inch laptop that I have is from 2017. For that year, there were 3 different CPUs available, all of which were Intel chips: the M3, the i5, and the i7. All 3 were dual-core models with slightly higher clock speeds as you go up the line, but the general consensus is that there's not much of a change in performance between them. I have the i5 model with 8 gigs of RAM and a 512 gig SSD, and for most simple tasks like browsing the web, working on spreadsheets, or just watching 4K video, this laptop will handle just fine. It might get kind of warm if you're doing all of those things at once, but I can't say that I wanted much more out of this laptop. But that's coming from someone that had low expectations. I bought this laptop for the sole purpose of using it as a portable script writing, email typing, and casual video watching device, because that's essentially all it was ever made for. It's not going to be a video editing monster, it's only got a dual-core CPU. It's not going to be a gaming machine, it doesn't have a dedicated GPU. It's a laptop that was purpose-built to handle basic computing tasks. Nothing more, nothing less. When it launched at $1,300, I can see why it would have turned a lot of people off. But it ain't $1,300 anymore. I paid just under $500 for this 12-inch MacBook, and it's in nearly perfect condition. For that price, I think it's a steal. The 12-inch MacBook was discontinued in 2019, but I really hope that they bring it back. Now that Apple is making their own SoCs and they've ditched Intel completely, the 12-inch MacBook could really shine with a more powerful and power-efficient chip inside. At the end of every Tech Rewind episode, I give each device a rating from A+ at the top and F at the bottom, and the 12-inch MacBook, with its excellent display, decent battery life, and unparalleled portability, gets a B+ from me. It's a good buy, especially now. If you're interested in a solid budget iPhone to pair with that MacBook, check out the Tech Rewind episode on the iPhone XR by clicking on the thumbnail right here. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day.